Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Glowed Up and Woke as Fuck. Trying to tackle the question of consciousness again here. I just want to give like a really brief overview of these very complex ideas, basically, and therein lies the difficulty. So, what we have so far, as far as understanding consciousness, is that consciousness is not produced by the brain. The idea that the material world is real and is a fundamental reality, and that the bits, like atoms and molecules and cells and single cell, that those bits that make up the physical world are not conscious, but that somehow when they get together, somehow magically they produce consciousness through the human brain and complex computations in the neurons. That is false, as far as I'm concerned. As far as Dr. Donald Hoffman, Dr. Sir Roger Penrose, Deepak Chopra, Menas Kafatos, Rupert Sheldrake, Bruce Lipton. There's a lot of scientists with legitimate PhDs who have access to research facilities who also agree with me. So it's not just me, but so that is wrong. What is happening is that consciousness is the fundamental fabric of reality, the stuff of the universe, that which thou art. I am that I am. This has been referred to through the ages in all the spiritual books. So that stuff, which is consciousness, this universal, primordial, pure consciousness, gives rise to everything else, right? The whole myriad of the multitude of things, the external world. So it's a singular, unified consciousness, much like how you get every color in the rainbow comes from one light, right? So just in that same way, from this raw material, which is pure consciousness, we get the subatomic or the quantum foam, from which all the subatomic particles are said to be made of, and then those subatomic particles arrange themselves based on structures that I believe are dictated by consciousness, but those subatomic particles arrange themselves into atoms and molecules, which then create the external world. So how can we perceive an external world that is physical? What is the role of the brain? The brain is like an antenna which receives, filters, but receives. It's a filtering antenna, right? It's blocking out 90% of, or more than 99.9% of the information out there. So the way that I like to think of it is just like the internet has like almost virtually infinite information, and your phone is tuning into it through the Wi-Fi signal and isolating just one stream video, right? Just one video out of billions of possible videos. That's how our brain is filtering out all the information available in reality, and it's receiving consciousness like a signal. So when we're connected to our heart, body, mind, and we have coherence, and our electromagnetic resonance is harmonious, right? Which in ancient times they would call it your spirit is at peace or your chakras are aligned. But when these conditions are in place, we have a much clearer connection and therefore getting a stronger Wi-Fi signal, and we're able to access accurate information in real time and respond in what they call a flow state. Just smoothly, things happen well for us. So again, the brain does not produce consciousness, rather it receives it like a computer, like a phone receives a Wi-Fi signal, or a computer receives a Wi-Fi signal. But then not only that, it also broadcasts this signal. So it receives a signal, filters out most of it, and broadcasts basically the raw data that's coming in is reconfigured by the belief systems and programming that has gone into your mind slash brain, because the thought systems actually create a matching neural network pattern. So for every belief and every feeling, there's neural networks that actually, shape themselves to match that belief, and that are activated every time those beliefs and those emotions are sort of brought to life, or elicited. So based on this programming, the Wi-Fi signal is picking up a different version of reality and broadcasting it's basically like our minds expand beyond our brains and project or broadcast a frequency of consciousness which interacts with the quantum particle fields, or the quantum fields of subatomic particles, interacts with those in the same way that sound interacts with water in cymatics. If you've ever seen it, the different frequencies of sound create a different geometrical shape in the water when they are exposed to the sound. So we are broadcasting a vibratory signal that is interacting with other fields of vibrations and creating an interference pattern of tension, electromagnetic tension, which forms the physical world around us. And the reason it looks so similar, my world looks so similar to the world that he sees, is because the configuration of the programming in the mind, which is filtering out the possible ways that it could look and narrowing it down and then broadcasting it to look the way that it does, that configuration is species-wide. It's species-specific. Therefore, all humans have the same basic programming, just the way that all iPhones, which are Mac, have the same basic programming and they have the same basic display and settings, and versus like an Android, has a different, and a Samsung. I don't know all the different phones, but you get the idea, right? The way an ant is perceiving its surroundings and the world that it experiences around itself is completely different. And we not only do we not know how different it is, but we can't know how different it is because the basic, the hardware circuitry in here is different. And then you have the software, which is cultural programmings. And those are going to determine how, kind of like the brightness on your screen. Those are things that are more detailed, like finer details. And by this broadcasting of frequencies, we are collapsing the wave of quantum possibilities in the field around us and creating the reality that we perceive to be real. But it's only real to us based on the configuration of the programming that the lens or the filter of consciousness is being projected through. Does that make sense? So it's just the same way as a projector works. Like when you project an image on the screen, it only looks that way because of the little cutout, the film, is blocking some of the light. So same way, our brains are blocking some of the information so that we can make out an image of what is useful to our survival. Now, we have confused those images that we see the way that we see based on our programming and because it's useful for our survival. We have confused those images with the actual reality of what's actually there, and it's just not the case. Donald Hoffman has a really amazing, very sound, scientific, mathematically expressed equation for consciousness as being fundamental, and he combines that with evolutionary psychology and game theory, and creates this amazing analogy of how everything that we perceive is really like an icon on a computer. It's a dumbed down version of everything that our brains intentionally dumb down in order for us in order to get all the extra information that we don't absolutely need out of the way, and just hides all the reality and just gives us the little dumbed down icon so it can make it easy for me to slide up and click on the thing. Right, so that's a pretty cool metaphor. So basically, when we have a certain beliefs, which is like taking a particular viewpoint or choosing a particular lens, when we have that belief, we are going to see evidence of that belief out in the world, which is then strengthens that belief, which then, carves an even deeper carving into the filter and makes us see the same thing out in the world again. And then this feedback creates what seems like a very fixed reality. It begins to make it seem like that belief is an absolute belief. Like, if you have a belief that all men are dogs, right? Or all women leave when things get tough, whatever, or the government is evil, right? So every time you look towards the government or the women that you attract in your life, you're vibrationally and subconsciously you're broadcasting a signal that's creating the manifestation of that belief out there. So at first it might seem like a coincidence in the universe, or women tend to be this way, men tend to be this way, but then because you believed it, you created it. Because you created it, you saw it. Because you saw it, you believed it. Therefore, you recreated it even stronger to the point where it's not just that women have this tendency. It's like a law of the universe that this is just the way women are. And there you're stuck on a very limited reality when it comes to interacting and relating to women. That's just an example. It could be men, it could be cars always break down, it could be, rich people are always greedy, anything like that. You're going to see evidence, reinforce the belief, and so then the universe to us as a species has these physical laws, right, that govern it, which I believe are not actually machine-like. They just appear to be machine-like. The universe in Newtonian physics appears machine-like because we have reinforced a belief about a tendency of the universe or a potential behavior of the way the universe works, and decided that, have seen it so many times that it's like, okay, it's not really a potential behavior anymore. It's not a tendency. It's a law. It's just like predictable, and this is what it's going to do every single time, right? And that can happen in the physical world, but we can't make that predictability happen in the quantum world. When we look into quantum mechanics, everything is super random, and like there's all kinds of chance, and it doesn't behave like a machine. And that's because we can't observe the subatomic world enough to create a belief and then broadcast it and then, reinforce that belief and have this feedback loop, turn it into a seemingly fixed reality. So basically what I'm saying is, when we stop thinking of physical reality as being the fundamental reality and recognize that consciousness is the fundamental reality, and that we as conscious observers have the power to change the probabilities of different outcomes and the tendencies of the universe, then we won't be locked in a seemingly fixed reality where you are separate from me, I am a separate individual, and I am in this sort of big empty like box of a universe where anything can maybe happen and hurt me and I have no say in the matter. And realize that we're actually all connected, and there is no way to hurt another without hurting myself, because all there is this one consciousness. I think that once we adopt this, or we recognize this consciousness as fundamental, world peace and these kinds of things will naturally be a result of that. So much love, and God bless.